Hi, this is American Government, winter, January 2021. I'm your professor, Professor Pulvordi. That's how you pronounce my unspellable and nearly unpronounceable name. Um, this is the winter or January term version of this course. Very intense, as you'll see, and I'll explain the way I formatted the course and everything. Um, Let me remind you that this is a 4-hour course. And if it were scheduled in person, it would meet Monday through Thursday from 10 to 12 and from 1 to 3, I think. Um, in reality, since all of the materials will be based on readings and pre-recorded lectures such as this one, um, generally speaking, each day of winter term or January term is equivalent to a week of regular class. And so basically, um, you'll be watching 2 to 3 videos each day. And as I mentioned in my emails, um, since winter and January term is so short, I generally don't assign the kinds of papers or do the kinds of exams I would do during a regular term, especially with of course, with a lot of readings like this. And I've just decided to focus primarily on the preparation and review questions, PRQs, which I'll talk a little bit about today, and give you an example of. And let me just walk you through the syllabus and and then discuss some general issues in the course. And the second video from the day is my discussion of politics, political science, and what the concept of a constitutional regime is. Um, the On the syllabus, by the way. And let me just say that since these are pre-recorded videos, nevertheless, if you need to consult with me, I'm available by Zoom. I'm also available, obviously, by email, or I even given you my telephone number on the syllabus and in my email. So there are all kinds of ways that you can consult with me. Um, the Again, um, um, you can since the course consists of pre-recorded videos, you can pretty much structure your own time and consideration of these materials at your convenience. I've laid out a daily schedule of readings and lectures and everything, and you can follow that schedule. I'll try to publish and send out the PRQs for the material a week in advance. So if your preference is to do lots of material in one day, that's fine, or you can follow the same schedule as I've posted it and as I'll be disseminating the material. Um, the um, the class again would go from Monday to Thursday because I've always found ever since I came to Congress in 1986, when our schedule was a 12-week fall term, 6-week winter term, and a 12-week spring term, we revised the calendar in the early 2000s. So now we have a 14, 3.5, 14 schedule. I've always found that the daily pace of classes was actually too much to do them every day, so I've always taken off Friday. Um, and 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 of course, Martin Luther King Day is the 18th, so you'll have plenty of time to do the considerable amount of reading and writing that you'll have to do. And again, you can pace yourself um, uh, for most of this yourself. You can look at the statement of honor on my syllabus. Horrible things never to say to a professor. It's just that in in my 40 years as a college professor, I hate it when students come up and say, "I hope my absence doesn't inconvenience you." Your absence doesn't inconvenience me. Uh, Thanking you in advance, I hate that expression. Um, did I miss anything important in class? No, you didn't miss anything important in class. And in this case, you don't have to miss class. You can essentially schedule it at your convenience. You don't have to watch the videos in a 3-hour stretch. You can put them out during the day. You can view them early if they posted them, etc. Most of these videos, by the way, for this term, I recorded in the fall of this course when we were online from the beginning of the semester. Um, and You'll notice there are references to the dates from the fall. I'll also record some new materials and supplement and post them as may be appropriate. the vast majority of the material in my fall course, of course, is just as true as it was then. Although there have been important changes, as you are all aware, since the end of the semester in November, and since the election in November, and even since the events of last week, some of which we'll be discussing. Very controversial times. The purpose of this course, and you can look at the description and the course objectives on the syllabus, is to provide American undergraduate college students, I guess that's a redundancy, um, with the fundamentals of the American political system, its origins, its principles, its institutions, and its criticisms, too, by the way. In the course difficulty and workload, there's a lot of readings and to some degree a lot of reading, although it's not a massive amount of reading, but there are many different readings. That's I use the two texts, which let me discuss the text, by the way. Um, um, Nichols and Burns, Readings in American Government, is essentially a compilation of um, it's an anthology of mostly original readings from original documents, important documents such as the Declaration, Constitution, the Federalist Papers, other presidential speeches and other political writings, the writings of political scientists, etc. And I find it provides the most broad, the broadest and most comprehensive sampling of American political writing. And I prefer college students to actually study American government from original texts. The Wilson text, which is now the 13th edition, and I don't recommend trying to use other editions. Most college texts, which are overpriced, and by the way, these texts are available both at the bookstore and online. There are digital forms that you can use if you prefer. And don't forget that even these editions can be found very cheaply on the internet. You can do some hunting and everything if you don't want to pay bookstore prices. But the bookstore has them, and also they are available through electronic text. Um, the the Wilson text, by the way, there are all kinds of textbooks in American government. Most college textbooks are terribly written. This is one of the better written ones, and is also relatively ideologically and partisanly neutral. So this is why I use these texts. I'll also be passing some materials out in PDF form, as noted in the materials, and as I'll let you know. Um, basically, um, your grade in this course, 90% of the grade will be based on your PRQs, and I'll explain later how I grade these materials. 10% is attendance, and let me just tell you how I'll measure attendance. When you submit the preparation and review questions completed either day by day, or if you wait till the end of the week and work on them primarily over the weekend and submit them by the due date and time, which is generally the beginning of class in the following week, um, you can I will count then you having attended that class. So 90% of your grade, and I'll basically the way I grade these, I'll explain that right now, is I give 10 points per question, and so your total grade in the course, the 90% that's based on these assignments, will be based upon your total percentage points for each question and the total questions at the end. And then the 10%, as I said, I'll count you of having attended the course, which is to say, having read the material and watched the videos after you submitted the PRQs in the following week. So that's what your grade is based on this course. The advantages and disadvantages, there are a lot of questions, as you'll see, a lot of PRQs. The advantages is there are no papers to write, and you don't have any exams per se. You'll have all the questions pretty much when I finish reformulating them and sending them all out. I'll try to actually do all the questions for the course through the end of the course, probably this week, and uh, and that means you can have as much time to prepare them as you like. They're open book, open notes. So the primary thing is to get you to read the materials and think about them by asking you. The kinds of questions I ask are sometimes informational, mostly reflective. These are not like dot list questions or bullet questions. You should conceive of each of the answers to these questions as extended paragraphs or even mini essays. And I'll give an example of one later on. Let me just walk you through the themes of the course. And if you're following uh, the the day-to-day schedule, remember each day in winter term, and this is, as I mentioned, a 4-hour class, is equivalent to a week of classes. So basically, after this introduction today, and in the second video today, talking about political science and politics, what those are. After all, this is not only your course in American government, it's also, for many of you, an introduction to political science or politics, and in terms of the academic study. So tomorrow on Tuesday, we'll discuss the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary Period, the foundation of American institutions and principles in the Declaration. On the next day, um, we'll finish up our discussion of the Declaration by looking at four commentators on the Declaration. Abraham Lincoln, you know who that was. And the context of that, as you'll see, will be the Lincoln-Douglas debates in 1857. Um, an essay by Martin Diamond on the meaning of liberty in the Declaration, and then uh, two commentaries by, I should say, commentaries in the form of President Obama's second inaugural address, and a short story, which some of you may know, by Kurt Vonnegut, Harrison Bergeron. And then on Wednesday and Thursday of this course, we'll turn to the founding, meaning the creation of our governing institutions. First, in the Articles of Confederation on Wednesday, and the defects and why the Articles was a problematic system, and then essentially the Constitutional Convention, the creation of the Constitution. That will bring us to next week, where I'll on Tuesday. Remember, there's no class on Monday the 18th. Um, uh, on Tuesday, we'll go through the text of the Constitution after having seen its origin and generation and its principles, and also the controversies in the founding. Ever since the death of George Floyd this summer, and the whole question of race and slavery in the founding and the American political life is raised. And the last part of the founding section will look at that question specifically by looking at the 1619 project, which was just published a couple of years ago by in 2019 by the New York Times, but then also look at some criticisms and raise the question of the critical issue of race and slavery at the time of the founding. As again, next week on Tuesday, we'll do an intensive examination of the Constitution and the text, so that, after all, you're supposed to come away from this course being far more familiar with the 7 pages of the original Constitution and its 27 amendments. And then the rest of the course essentially looks at the features of the American political system as laid out or founded by the Constitution, or as they have been added over time. And that includes the question of federalism, which will be on Wednesday the 20th, the issue of the division of power between the states and the nation. On Thursday, the Congress. And then on Monday, the 25th, we'll turn to the Electoral College, and then the party system that flows from that, and then examine the presidency, how the presidency and Congress make policy, and end with the judiciary and civil rights. That's essentially the layout of the course. And the way I've written the syllabus, by the way, is um, the weekly schedule of topics and major questions. Is I've organized the course for many years now around the kinds of questions that an educated and thoughtful undergraduate should be able to answer. Like, for instance, the 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 first major topic of the course, which is really about the Declaration, is what is government for and what should it be doing for us? Where does it derive its power? What in human nature requires and resists? You'll see there's an irony there. Government, and what is a right? You should be able to answer those questions. And then the second set of topics is about the founding, is what were and so forth. You can read them on the syllabus. So that will be our course in American government. Um, each video lasts from uh, um, typically 40 to 50 minutes. And as I said, some of the materials that I'm recording will be original to this term. Most of them come from the fall term, and I'll be updating them, as I mentioned, as before. So let me talk about the core assignment for the course, which is the preparation and review questions. I came up with this system of assigning readings about 10 years ago, and I've used more or less at all my classes. Because to some degree, college students have to be trained how to read, and reading thoughtfully and attentively is not a natural ability. It has to be acquired. And that's part of the task of what college is, to teach you how to read difficult, especially in politics, original materials. My other teaching fields, by the way, are American institutions in general. The presidency was my dissertation. And also ancient and modern political philosophy and constitutional law. Those are the subjects that I teach here at Converse College. The purpose of these questions is to help you prepare the material. So the assiduous and the hardworking among you can not only do the material for that day, that is to say, reviewing the material that you watched that day. If you want, you could skim the material and also use these questions to prepare. The idea is that is that you should use these questions several passes. One to prepare the material, and then after watching the lectures. And generally speaking, you can't answer many of these questions fully. You have to do both the readings and the lectures. Um, uh, the material is some of the material, even though it's original, like the Constitution and the Declaration are citizen documents, you might say. Nevertheless, these are complex and contain profound issues, sometimes tensions, and so the preparation and review questions are based on the notion that you have to be able to read material independently and taught how to do that, but also they are review questions after the class and after my lecture, which you can watch any number of times. I'm sure that you'll become addicted to them. Um, uh, you should be able to answer these questions in a thoughtful way. And let me do this right now. Let me actually take a PRQ that you're assigned and uh, walk you through it. And and again, in other semesters, I would use these as the exam questions for regularly posted exams. But since, as I mentioned, the winter term, the January term is so short, better that you should read the material and summarize it as you work along. And I think that's the easiest way to grasp this material in the format of the slightly less than a month time of the winter term. Um, if One of the questions for tomorrow for the Declaration of Independence, it's question number 15. So what I want to do is I want to give you a sense of how to answer this question, and I also sent out two excellent exams from the fall semester when I use these as exam questions, but they will give you some sense of what thorough answers to these and what an A answer looks like for the most part. So you might want to consult those two documents. I'm also, of course, sending out the notes for tomorrow, posting the videos for tomorrow, and I will be sending out a copy of the Declaration, although, as I mentioned, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution are both appendices, or they are selections within the Nichols Reader and also appendices in the Wilson American Government text. The As I said, I'll be sending a copy of the Declaration out, and thus a blank outline form of the Declaration, which if you want to try to fill this out beforehand, I will lecture on this tomorrow. So, but you can try your hand on it tonight for tomorrow. So, uh, again, the way I grade these is there are 10 potential points for each question, and at the end of the term, I'll add up your point total, point total for the questions, and then of course your grade will be based on the percentage of your answer out of the total number of points for the total number of questions. So to give you an example of how to answer one of these, and also what what different quality answers would look like. So these are the questions for tomorrow. And by the way, I include questions for Wilson Chapter 1 today, but you don't need to turn in those questions for Wilson Chapter 1. Your assignments begin with Wilson Chapter 2 and the Declaration, etc. So, nevertheless, this is the last question of the PRQs from the questions on the Declaration. Question number 15. How many times is God mentioned or referred to in the Declaration? Is the Declaration a religious document? Is it a Christian document? Now, you can answer the first part of that question simply by reading the Declaration, and you'll see there are different levels of answering that question. But that also asks two other issues: is the Declaration a religious document? Is it a Christian document? Now, don't go to the internet or try to look up a source. I discuss these issues in my lecture, so that's why you have to read the material and also watch the videos, that is to say, attend class. So let me give you different levels of answering this question. First of all, the correct answer is 4. Now, if you answer this question by saying God is mentioned or referred to 4 times in the Declaration, that's the minimal possible answer. That would probably get you 3 or 4 points out of 10 points. If you then go on to, because the question says how many times is God mentioned or referred to, if you then which I'll answer this for you right now, by the way. If you go on and and then not only give the correct number, which is 4 times, then the next level up would be to actually mention the 4 references or allusions to God. In the first paragraph, as you'll see what the first paragraph is, nature and nature's God. In the second paragraph, what I like to call the theoretical core statement of principles of the Declaration, its foundational ideas that make Americans Americans by believing in them, the concept of rights especially. Um, they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. The third mention of God is in the last paragraph, uh, appealing to the supreme judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions. And then the last, literally in the last line of the Declaration, is with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, etc. So the minimal answer would be God is mentioned 4 times. That would be 3 points, 4 points, let's say. If you then also mentioned the actual references to God, I would say that's about a C plus B minus answer. You've got it. You mentioned the right number. You mentioned them. But the question goes on to ask you, is it religious? And of course, you'll see in my lectures on tomorrow, we'll discuss the question of the Declaration's religious character. And is it a Christian document? Now, how would you know it's a Christian document, one way or the other? Most of the founders were Christians, or most of the people that signed the Declaration, and most of the people that read it at that time, most Americans were also Christians. Um, and but then, as you'll see in my discussion, I argue that the Declaration is not a religious document. Um, it is compatible with religious belief, and then also in my lecture tomorrow, I'll discuss um, uh, how you would identify a text as Christian or Jewish or Muslim, and I'm going to make the argument that it's not a Christian text because, and I'll give you a taste of the lecture tomorrow. It's because Jesus is not mentioned, the Bible is not referred to as a sacred text, nor is the substantive notion of rights identical to Christian moral love. Now, that would also be true of the Torah, or if it were a Jewish document or a Buddhist document. So, a full answer to this question, 10-point answer, would list the number of times that God is referred to, actually list the references to God, and then from both the text itself, but my development of the text in the lecture, um, the question of whether it's a religious document, yes or no, and I'm going to argue it is not, but it's compatible with. You can make your own argument there. And the question of whether it's a Christian document. So that's what a 10-point answer would look like. It would address all the aspects of the and it would show, by the way, that you not only read the material, but that you listened to the lecture and that you thought about this and that you assimilated it. That's what a full-fledged answer looks like on these questions. And again, you can refer to the 2 sample exams from the fall. I think one was a 98, one was 100, but I very rarely give 100s. So, uh, uh, and if you look at my standards of grading on the syllabus, what an A is, what a B is, A is excellent mastery, B is very good, C is average or okay, and D is poor, etc. So look at the statement of grades and the other administrative issues on the back page of the syllabus. So again, to summarize here, this course moves at a rapid pace because all courses in the winter term and January term move at a rapid pace. There's a lot of reading and a lot of writing to do, but again, I think this is the best way to structure it in the limited time of the winter term course. You'll come away from this course understanding the fundamentals of the American political system, as I mentioned, and a greater appreciation for the tensions and limitations of American political life. Again, as I said, uh, uh, in the next video, I talk about politics and political science, and then you can follow the schedule for the rest of the week. So don't forget, if you have any questions or issues, you can email me, you can call me, and we can Zoom. So enjoy the course, and we'll see you in the next video.